Alrighty, so you just heard a fantastic webinar from Stacy about ABLE accounts and how they can benefit a person with a disability. So now we're going to discuss what the heck is a special needs trust and who needs one and why. So we're going to discuss the differences between a first and a third party trust and when a person should use these and how they can be used in conjunction with an ABLE account. So in the chat, do you know or work with anybody who's got a family member with special needs? And I can't open the chat now. Oh, there we go. All right, I'm going to keep it open over here, over my face. Okay. So those that work with them, what do you need to know when working with these families? So that's kind of what we're going to be discussing here. Okay, so a recent Forbes article from September of 2024 cited that the cost for raising a child with a disability up to adulthood is almost 10 times the cost of raising a non-disabled child. So this is 2.4 million versus $260,000. And that comes from an article entitled Effective Tools for Working Parents Raising Special Needs Children. So, I mean, that's just to get to 18. So the cost to care for an adult with disabilities can far exceed this amount. So if you have an adult with a disability, you're going to be caring for that person for the rest of their life. So you need to have some funding for that. So here is me and my son, and this is in Anchorage, Alaska. He was born, and we were home, and then he immediately had to go back to the hospital, and we spent 39 days in the PICU. So that's lovely, lots of tubes and stuff like that. And he was on a ventilator for a while. We had a couple surgeries and lots of fun times. So our biggest issue was healthcare. I mean, the additional costs associated with being in there was astronomical. I mean, our 39-day stay cost $383,000, and that was back in 2002. So, and at that time, before ACA came about, there was $1 million cap on your health insurance policy. So I was, very concerned that we were going to exceed that cap. In addition to, in some states, though, Medicaid is available for people with disabilities. In our particular case, in the state of Alaska, it was available as a supplement to my insurance. So my son had a colostomy for about a year. So we had a lot of durable medical equipment costs that aren't paid typically by insurance. And so they help pick up that cost. If not, it would be the family that would have to pick that up. And in Florida, where I live now, there's not Medicaid available unless you're income dependent. So, other things, additional costs for family members with special needs are education costs. For instance, if you're in the public school system and they're not providing the necessary things that you need, and you need to seek out additional therapies or additional education, then you're going to have to go to a private school or a specialized school, and that is very expensive. Therapy costs can be astronomical. Speech, occupational, physical therapy, ABA therapy, all that stuff can be very expensive. Daycare, respite care costs. So a lot of daycares will not cover people that have medical issues. If you have a G-tube, if you have any kind of feeding issues, if you have anything that's above the ordinary, they will not take you. So you got to be very careful of that and, account for that. My son was an eloper, which means he didn't run necessarily, but he stealthily left an area and he would go missing from the daycare and they couldn't find him. So we had to get a nanny, a private nanny, to care for him. And so, I mean, that gets very expensive too. The other thing is special vehicle and home rehabilitation costs. If you have a person with mobility issues and need a wheelchair, cerebral palsy, anything of that nature, you're going to have some home rehabilitation. You might need a specialized vehicle to have a lift in it. So all these things add up. So how do you pay for these additional expenses until the child becomes an adult? So from this time frame, it's going to be mostly parent income, other family support, um, medical insurance, employer-based, Medicaid, CHIP programs. Public benefits are not particularly easy to get because SSI income limit, and which is basically poverty level. I think it's 1640, 1620 a month now. And that $2,000 asset limit is based on family income when the child is under 18. It becomes based on the adult with the disability income once they turn 18 because they're considered an adult. The other things are Medicaid waivers. Those are home and community-based waivers. And again, they are totally dependent on the state that you live in as to what waivers are available. Most states do have some sort of home and community-based waiver that provides some sort of respite care, companion care, things of that nature. But yeah, it can be very expensive and very challenging to get that support. So here we are now, very handsome couple, I might add. But that's my son now. He's 22 and doing reasonably well, but we have transitioned out of, childhood and now we're into adulthood. And that has all different new expenses associated with it. So, for him, he's got hearing aids, he's got glasses. Hearing aids are not cheap. They cost about $5,000 every time you lose them or have to replace them. So how do you cover these lifetime costs of the person with a disability once they're an adult? It's parent income, retirement savings, life insurance. Sometimes the individual with a disability can work and then you can use their earned income if they have any. I will tell you that I think the employment rate for people with disabilities is around 22%. So getting a job as a person with a disability is extremely challenging. And then once you turn 18, you open up the world of public benefits a little bit more. So again, Social Security, SSI is $967 a month, starting in 2025. That comes with Medicaid. If you have a work history, you can qualify for SSDI and then Medicare. And then home and community-based waivers are a little bit more available, although most states have long wait lists. SNAP, which is the nutritional, I forget what it stands for, but supplemental nutritional something. I can make it up, but I won't. And then Section 8 housing, which is essentially non-existent anymore. So what is a special needs trust? A special needs trust is an irrevocable trust so that is intended to protect income and assets of a person with disabilities, to allow the person to collect public benefits. So what you are doing is, so it provides a funding source that enhances that person's life. Nobody can live on $967 a month. You can't even pay rent for $967 a month. So it provides a funding source that helps with their education, their housing, and the lifetime growth of that person. The type of trust depends on the source of income or assets. So we're going to talk about a first-party trust and a third-party trust. The first-party trust is funded by the person with the disability's money, and the third-party trust is funded by other people's money. So let's start with a first-party trust. So this first-party trusts are commonly called self-settled special needs trusts. That's the SNT. They're also called Medicaid payback trusts. They're OBRA 93 trust because that's when they got put into federal law, was in 1993. D4A and D4C trust because that is the tax code, I believe, that is associated with it. D4A is a personal one and D4C is a pooled trust. All first-party special needs trust must specify that after the beneficiary's death, Medicaid is paid back first. So just like some ABLE accounts do have a Medicaid payback, first party special needs trusts definitely do. And that Medicaid payback includes all benefits paid by Medicaid or a Medicaid waiver. So, which if you are using a Medicaid waiver to pay for group housing or something like that, that can be pretty substantial, and it can deplete that trust when the person with a disability dies. So there's probably no successor beneficiary. So payments out of the trust must be used for the sole benefit of the beneficiary. So this is very restrictive, much more restrictive than the ABLE accounts. So sole benefit means only for their benefit. If you go on a family vacation with a trust like this, you can only pay for the person with a disability and their caregiver. You can't pay for the whole family. But you can transfer money into an ABLE account from these trusts up to $19,000. So the first party trust is often used when the person with a disability inherits money, property, or receives a court settlement. So if they get into a car accident and they received a settlement, they get $5 million because they had a great lawyer, that would go into a special needs trust. Okay, they would be declared having a disability, it would go into a special needs trust, and they would still be able to get SSI and Medicaid benefits. It is also used for child support payments mandated by the court after age 18. It must be mandated by the court, though. And military survivor benefit plan annuities. So any kind of annuity that is income to the child or the adult child would need to go into a special needs trust. ABLE accounts will protect assets, but they will not protect income. So if you have a monthly payment that is $1,500 from a military survivor benefit annuity plan, and that's $1,500 a month, if it went into an ABLE account, you would lose Social Security for that month only. Then it becomes an asset. However, if it goes into a special needs trust, you won't lose any Social Security benefits because it is not considered income and it is not considered an asset to the child, to the adult with a disability at this point. So a first party special needs trust is funded with property that belongs to the benefit of the person with a disability. So, or which the person with the beneficiary is legally entitled to. Individual first party special needs trust may be created and funded only for individuals who meet the government's definition of disabled and are under the age of 65. So this cannot be used as an elder care, something that is to be used for elder care to protect assets that way. So let's do a little recap on first party trusts. The money is that funds the first party trust is funded by the persons with disabilities' own money. So that's inheritance, that is settlement, something of that nature. Okay, and the maximum age for a first party special needs trust to be set up is 65. And there is a payback provision. So Medicaid does take first stab at that money, and they will come after that money that's left over in that trust. So now let's jump over to third party trust, because this is mostly what you're going to encounter that people need to set up. People want to set up third party trusts. First party is going to be mostly for settlements, inheritance, child support, and the military annuity plan.
A quick question here. So after they're 65, the trust is still set up. They just have to set it up before 65, right?
Right.
Okay, correct. Making sure.
So third party special needs trusts. So those are, again, irrevocable trusts that can be funded during a parent's lifetime or upon the death using other people's money. So it's going to be the parents' money, grandparents' money, aunts and uncles' money, family friends' money. Anybody who wants to help you out, it can be used, but it is not the person with a disability's money. That is the key. And again, it's going to be an irrevocable trust. So that means that the person with a disability does not have access to that money. That's the key. So the trust is used to supplement, not supplant public benefits. It can't be used in lieu of public benefits. So it cannot pay rent, because that is what SSI is designed to use. And it used to be that SSI was designed for food too, but they just changed that rules. So it can supplement what public benefits are to be used for. A third party trust can also pay into an ABLE account, and that is a great thing to have the trust set up to be able to do. And again, up to the gift tax amount, which we just heard was $19,000 a year. And you can actually use the ABLE account as a conduit to pay rent. So you can deposit money into the ABLE account and then pay rent for the person with a disability out of the ABLE account. So that is a good way to kind of circumvent the rules, and it's totally legal too, which is awesome. And you can pay vendors directly for services. So for instance, you have a Verizon cell phone bill. I can pay Verizon directly as a trustee of the trust, because the trustee is going to control the money. So as a trustee of the trust, I can pay Verizon directly for the cell phone bill rather than paying my son with a disability to pay his own bill, because you don't want to do that, because that can reduce benefits. That can hurt your public benefits. So you want to pay directly. You can pay medical people directly. I can pay the hearing aid place directly for his hearing aids. So that makes it easy. So again, a third party trust is funded with other people's money, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, anybody who wants to contribute. It is money provided for the benefit of the person with special needs. You can establish a third party trust, so you can get all the paperwork, legal paperwork established, get an EIN number. So that's with the IRS, you have to get an EIN number for a trust. And then have it all set up so that you can fund it later, or you can set it up with like $10 or something like that. Of course, then you have to do tax returns every year on it, which would be a pain in the butt. But you can just fund it through your will. So at your will, it funds. You use it. You can use it as a beneficiary on your retirement accounts, a beneficiary on your life insurance, a beneficiary on your brokerage accounts, anything of that nature. So it can be funded by life insurance, and it's got to be permanent life insurance, because you typically do not want to use term insurance, because term will expire. And most people, their adult children with disabilities are probably going to outlive them. So you need to fund for the future. So not only while you're still alive, but after you're gone. So that's why retirement accounts planning and Roths are great for this, because there's no taxes on it. Brokerage accounts will also work well too. They get a step up in basis. So that's good. Okay, so pros and cons of third-party trusts. So the biggest use of a third-party trust is for larger inheritances and to provide lifetime care. So if you have somebody who wants to leave more than $19,000 to your person with a disability, you're probably going to need to have a third-party trust. And if you want to ensure that they have lifetime care after you're gone, you're going to need to have a third-party trust. You also want to have an ABLE account, but you will need to have a third-party trust. So the special needs beneficiary is allowed to stretch from the IRA disbursements. So they are considered one of the eligible designated beneficiaries, and they can stretch. They can establish a successor beneficiary, or you can establish a charity to receive that money. So there is an opportunity to use a successor beneficiary. Some of the cons associated with this is the trustee has full authority over the trust. I mean, this is true of a first party trust too, and disbursements for the benefit of the beneficiary. So you want to make very sure that the trustee is knowledgeable of public benefits and the administration of a trust. You also want to have a great tax accountant who understands fiduciary accounting and trust accounting, because it is very, very different from regular taxes. Trusts have a condensed tax bracket. So what that means is they reach the 37% tax rate at about $15,000 of income. So income is taxed very high. So there are ways to get around this by paying people directly and utilizing that money, or paying out to the beneficiary, which does not count against their public benefits. So there are ways around this. So let's talk about the differences between a first and a third party trust. The first party trust is funded by the person with a disability. It is their money. Third-party trust, funded by other people's money. Okay. First-party trust has a Medicaid payback. Third-party trust does not have a Medicaid payback. First-party trust must be established before the person with a disability is 65. Third-party trust can be established anytime and can be established early and funded later. And successor beneficiary is only an option after the Medicaid payback for first-party trust, and you can leave remaining money to other beneficiaries and a third-party trust. Similarities between these types of trusts. Neither one you can use to pay rent directly. You cannot take the money out of the trust and pay rent. It has to be funneled through an ABLE account. In both instances, the trustee will oversee the trust and all disbursements. And you must submit a copy of the trust to Social Security Administration for approval for both the first party and the third party trust. So when a person gets on Social Security, you have to provide the trust to Social Security so they can approve it. If they're already on Social Security and then you establish a trust, you need to submit it to Social Security at that point. So how can special needs trusts be used with ABLE accounts? So you can transfer up to the gift tax amount each year to the trust, both the first and a third party into the ABLE account. And what that does is transferring money allows it to grow without incurring trust tax rates, allows you to take the money out tax-free. And as Stacy already mentioned, it's the difference between disability-related expenses versus sole benefit. So ABLE account is way more accommodating on the items it can be used to pay for than a trust. So transferring that amount into the ABLE account every year just gives you a lot of flexibility. Special needs trust cannot, we already talked about that, cannot pay for rent, but an ABLE account can. So transferring that is brilliant. So establishing and updating a special needs trust. So when you establish a special needs trust, you want to make sure, and if you're a financial counselor, financial planner, you want to help the person because they need to make sure that person is very familiar with public benefits and pitfalls associated with them. So you don't want to use Eddie, your cousin, who happens to be a lawyer. You don't want them to set up the special needs trust. You don't probably even want, Josephine, your next door neighbor who happens to do elder law. That's probably a better option, but still special needs trusts are very specific in how they need to be set up. So recommend looking for lawyers associated with the Special Needs Alliance. NALA is another one, National Association. I realize it's elder law attorneys, but they are very familiar with special needs trust too. Trust can be established early to capture a potential inheritance. So that is, yes, thank you, Stacy. They can be established early to capture a potential inheritance from grandparents or other family friends. I recommend reviewing the trust every 5 years or so after major tax changes. I mean, Secure and Secure 2.0 drastically changed the rules for trust. And if you have a trust that was established pre-2014, when ABLE accounts came into, 2015, when ABLE accounts came into play, you definitely want to have it looked at so that there is a provision that allows the trustee to take out money from the trust and put it into an ABLE account. Financial planners should review and discuss with clients how to fund the trust and review trustees with the clients. So you want to make sure that it's funded appropriately. You can use life insurance. Roth accounts are very good for this, but you want to look at the funding source and even establish policy statements so that you know.
Okay, it's on my phone.
How it is being, what kind of funds you're using to set it up. So let's review. We have a little quiz here. Okay, so I have a daughter with Fragile X. So that's autism, like, and actually mostly it's boys that have Fragile X. So it's kind of funny they put daughter. So I have a daughter with Fragile X and heard I should set up a special needs trust. What type of trust should I establish if I want to leave money to my daughter while protecting her benefits? So go ahead and write it in the chat.
First or third? There we go. Oh, look at that.
Oh, excellent. Ding, 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 ding. Third party. This is a third party because this is other people's money. Okay, so you're leaving money to your daughter. That's not your daughter's money. So it's other people's money. So it's third party. Good. All right, next. My son, age 18, will receive child support until he is age 25. What should I do with the money? Go ahead. Where should it go?
They got it.
Yep, they did. And I'm going to throw something in there as a first party, but you can use an ABLE account depending on the amount of child support. If it's only a small amount, like $300 or $400, you can put it into an ABLE account. Just know that you're going to lose a third of that from Social Security. So that is an option, but it should be go to a first party. Okay, and last but not least, my son, age 32, was in a car accident and suffered brain damage. The other, oh, that's one I forgot. The other driver was at fault, and my son received an award of $2.4 million because he went to Morgan and Morgan. What type of trust should I establish? Very good. First party trust. This is a first party trust because it's his money. It's a settlement for him. Okay, who's got questions? So a pooled trust is a nonprofit establishes an like oversight of a trust, and I think it's called a disclaimer, not a disclaimer, a joinder agreement. And so what you do is your money, if you do not have a ton of money, maybe you have $50,000, $100,000. It's not really cost effective to get a first party trust. So you want to pool that money and you don't want to be responsible for it. So they act as trustee. You pool your money in with other people with special needs. It's in your account. You have a joiner agreement. So it's kind of like defined benefit plan. You have your own like portion of it. It's separate from everybody else. However, typically what happens is once you pass away, the nonprofit takes that money. Although they've changed some of the rules, and sometimes you can leave it to a beneficiary. But okay, any other questions? Does that make sense? Kind of pooled trust. You're just pooling the money with other people. It can be kind of expensive. Like I looked at one for my son, and it was like a 3% fee every year on an AUM fee on the money that was in it.